Go.
All right, well, again, thank you all for joining us here today as we get ready for another round of football. That's kind of the theme for the week. You know, we get another week together. I know the guys are excited about that. Like I always say every year, when you get a chance to, play at this time of year, you're fighting for the life of your football team every week. And anytime we get a chance to have this, like I said, another week together, another Tuesday together, going out there and practicing, it's going to be fun. And now, snow on the ground. You're starting to get into December, and when you play December football, you're having a good season. So I know the guys are excited, like I said, just to get out there and get another opportunity to compete together. And we're going to have a really good Bethel team showing up here on Saturday. Obviously, they've already played a pair of playoff games here, and so kind of had some opportunity to get themselves, ready to roll. And they're, like I said, they've been looking good the last couple of weeks. So we're going to have our hands full, and hopefully, if we can play like we did this last Saturday, I felt like it was our most complete game against Platteville here this last Saturday, and if we can keep ourselves on that track and keep preparing ourselves in that manner, I think we've got a great chance to keep this train rolling. So I guess that's the opening statement for the day, and we'll go from there.
You forced 3 takeaways defensively on Saturday. You've had 26 on the season. What has allowed this defense to be as opportunistic as it has been?
Yeah, no doubt. I think one of the things that's allowed us to have that opportunistic defense is just the number of times people are putting the ball in the air. Just the type of offenses that we're seeing right now. We don't see people running the ball a whole lot. Now I would say Platteville came in here and tried to establish a run game more so than some of the teams we've seen. But just like I said, people are taking a few more chances through the air. We're forcing them to try to take some shots down the field at some point. We're making them drive the field. They get a little bit uncomfortable and decide, hey, it's time to take a shot. And when they do, we've been able to take advantage of some of those opportunities. I think the other thing that we always do a great job of is running the football, playing with 11 guys out there and having every guy understand that their job is to make sure they're on the ball. And so, that's part of it too, is anytime the ball is on the ground, we created that fumble there early in the game. That was a big turnover for us, momentum switch for sure. A lot of that was due to just our pursuit and our effort. And the guys are, like I said, they believe in 11-man defense, playing for each other and competing for each other, and that's kind of been our MO. I think if you look at the last couple seasons, we've been one of the top teams in the country in turnovers gained, and we're doing that again this year. So I think the other part of it is Coach Cheddar, as our defense coordinator, does a great job of emphasizing that, and that's something we talked about the last few weeks here. Is some of these teams' ball security shows up on film as maybe a little bit of an issue. Hey, we're going to create our own opportunities through our effort and through competing and getting the football. So the guys have been buying in and putting themselves in position to make those plays, and we've been taking advantage of mistakes of these other teams, and that's been a big part of our success for sure.
And Nate Link was back defensively. First of all, how happy were you for him, being the fact he has had to sit out the majority of this year, and also how big of a difference does he make on the defense?
I mean, Nate is a difference maker. There's no doubt. I mean, that's as big of an impact as we're going to have. When you get a guy that's been a 2-time All-Region performer, multiple-time All-Conference performer, captain of our team, you get him back on the field. Not only his play, but his leadership, his kind of energy, that motor that he plays with. And that's not to make a slight to Adam. Obviously, his brother's been filling in his role really nicely. I mean, he's had a great season for us, and we wouldn't be where we're at without Adam. But again, there's a little difference with Nate and his experience playing in these type of games, playing in playoff games. That's the 7th playoff game now. Or no, sorry, 9th playoff game now. I mean, I just can't keep track. But yeah, so I mean, he just continues to, like I said, be a big part of it. Even when he was injured, there was some times where, he was still picking up the slack, doing things from the sideline, helping his brother, whatever it needed to be. But his impact on Saturday on the field of play was big. I mean, that perimeter screen game they were utilizing, they were trying to get the ball in the run game out there, tossing out there in the perimeter, and he's just so hard to block. He understands how to get off blocks, how to be physical, and he's the type of guy that, like I said, is just a difference maker on our defense, and to have him out there for that whole game on Saturday was huge for our team. And he's feeling pretty good again this week, and just excited to see what he can continue to do. And like I said, just really happy for him, because I know it's been killing him to be out for as long as he has. Coming back as a 5th-year senior, you come back with a mindset of like, okay, I get a chance to play another full season, and you have an idea kind of in your mind. I think he had a lot of goals in mind of how this thing was going to go. And for it to be taken away from him for so long, it was tough. But for him to come back, playing a big-time game like that, and have the impact that he had on Saturday, really felt great for Nate, too. It was nice to see.
And
Coach Nate will be an important part of your defense. You try to slow down the Bethel offense. Quarterbacks throwing 40 touchdowns, 2,000-yard receivers. Running backs got 18 touchdowns on the ground. How do you go about trying to slow down an offense that can beat you not only on the ground but through the air as well?
Yeah. I think it's sticking to our plan, man. That's just kind of what we've been doing throughout the year is finding ways to stop the run. I think that's the first thing. If we can get them to be one-dimensional, that'll play a big role. And I think Platteville tried to establish, like I said, some run game, and they were able to get a little bit going here and there, but not consistent enough for them to feel like they could just stick with it. And at some point, they got a little bit maybe one-dimensional there when it comes to some of their short passing game, screen game, and then when they decided to take some shots down the field, we were getting really good pressure on the quarterback and creating some turnovers. So I really think just kind of sticking to what we do. I don't think we need to come up with a new plan here this week by any means, but we need to make sure that we're preparing our guys for what we're going to see from Bethel. And like you said, this is probably one of the most balanced teams offensively that we've seen this year, and that's certainly going to pose a challenge. And I think it starts with, again, being physical up front, stopping the run, and then going from there. And then like the question from earlier, but being opportunistic. They have had a few times when the turnovers have cost them a little bit. I know that Co game that they play that kind of kept Co in the game. What were some of those turnovers? So creating opportunities for ourselves like we've been doing, and when those opportunities arise, making sure we're capitalizing on them. And that's kind of been the game plan all year long. And I think that'll be the big thing for our defense is can we execute that against a balanced offense like Bethel has.
Bethel has a new coach this year, or is it?
Yeah. So they have a new head coach. He's been their defensive coordinator for I'm not sure how many years it's been now, but for a number of years, and it's done an outstanding job with their defense. Their defense has been one of the best in the country, year in and year out, and they are again this year. They're very good at putting pressure on offenses. They get after you. They're physical. They're going to be a really stout defense that makes it hard to run the football and hard to put points on the board. So, but yeah, he's been around Bethel. I think he knows the culture, knows the environment there. Learned a lot under Coach Johnson, who obviously had a long career at Bethel and just an impressive coaching career at Bethel. But there's not been any drop off with the new head coach, and they continue to compete at a very high level. So, like I said, it'll be I think there's a little different, some nuances to their offense that are different now than maybe they were a few years back when we saw them in the playoffs. But overall, they're still a fast, physical, well-coached football team.
One kid that may not get a lot of headlines on their team, who I thought had a really good game on Saturday, was John McConney, your tight end. Obviously on the stat sheet, he was your leading receiver, and with the untrained eye, I thought he had a really good game opening up some holes for your backfield. Do you agree?
No doubt. John is silent MVP of our team, literally and figuratively. He doesn't say a whole lot, and also, like I said, people don't always notice him out there in that manner. You kind of get overshadowed when there's running backs out there that are rushing for 1,000 yards, and your left tackle's an NFL guy, and you got all these different guys. But John McConney, we would not be the same offense without him, certainly, and just the tight end position in general in our offense. Matt Defoe is another guy, who has just played outstanding football for us. I really think that group, right around the Co game, kind of came into their own in terms of how they competed on the field blocking, like I said, opening up those holes and really allowing us to do some things in the running game with those guys. And then, their ability to catch the ball and get yards after the catch and get open and be more than just hey, he's wide open, we can dump it off to him, he's going to fall down and get you 8. Those guys are going to be able to create some explosive plays. And, a lot of times that's going to be a quarterback's best friend is when you can have a good tight end that can kind of make some plays across the middle off of play action. And that's what John's been able to do. And he's been a key cog really in our offense this year. And even in previous years, I think sometimes he got overshadowed a little bit by, Tom Butters and obviously what he was able to do with his career at tight end. But now it's nice to see, John getting some of that spotlight and shining out there the way he is. He's certainly a big part of what we're doing.
Coach, watching Wartburg here the last 20 years, I think it's interesting mentally, before going into the playoffs is, geez, I hope we can win. Now you expect to win. Can you personally talk about that transition?
Yeah. I think there's confidence comes from demonstrated ability, right? And I think that's something we've done. We've demonstrated our ability to compete in these games. I also think there's a high level of confidence when we get a chance to play, out here in this stadium in front of this crowd. There's just a feeling amongst the guys like when we're playing at home, we're going to be hard to beat, hard to knock out, and I think that gives us a lot of like some confidence. And I think that's, in the past, maybe we haven't always had those opportunities. And so, I think just setting ourselves up through the regular season, the last couple of years, getting the chance to come back home, playing at home, last year hosting all these games, this year getting the first 2 at home, has been a huge part of that. But yeah, I think it just comes from the experience. I mean, you play in these big games and you have success doing it, and the guys believe. And part of it is your preparation too, right? That they feel confident that they're being prepared well. That goes back to having a great coaching staff. I think Coach Wheeler, Coach Cheddar, the rest of the assistants just do a really nice job of getting these guys prepared, and they believe. And like I said, the other thing I think they have that I've been saying all year is, and we've had it for the last couple of years, is they really truly do care so much about each other, love each other, that like part of this thing is they're fighting to have another week together, and there's something about that too. It's not just about hardware or putting another check in the win column. It's truly about, hey, we get a chance to compete, to be together for another week, and when you got guys that are really fighting for that, I think that really brings out the best in them as well. And like I said, they're just competing with a high level of confidence right now that like I said, I think comes from success.
Coach, does playing your shared opponent help you prepare for Bethel at all? As they played Co in the playoffs, you guys played Co obviously in the regular season earlier. Does that help you in your preparation for them?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. You kind of know how. I think, especially with Co and the way that they play defense, I think there's some similarities in their defense to our defense in terms of just the physicality that Co plays with. I said that when we played them that week. They do a lot of similar things. They're going to make you earn everything you're going to gain. They don't give up a lot of big plays. They create turnovers. So I think seeing how Bethel attacked that defense gives you a little bit of a sense for maybe how they want to go about their approach against ours. Obviously, the way we lined up might be a little bit different, but the approach is still similar. So I think having a common opponent like that gives you some information for sure. But at the same time, like I said, it's with the talented team that they have right now, there's probably nothing that's going to get us totally prepared. But yeah, like I said, it's nice to have a few common opponents on the schedule that you can kind of gauge. And obviously they're playing St. John's throughout the year too. Just with our matchup with St. John's, gives you a little bit of kind of a gauge there as well. So there's been a couple of those common opponents where you kind of see a little bit of what that might look like, and we'll see how that shakes out.
You touched on it after the game on Saturday. Winning the line of scrimmage was so key on Saturday, and you have touched on the lessons you learned from the St. John's game. Your offensive line gave up 10 sacks in that game, and you go from that to last Saturday where they won you the football game. How has that unit, with a lot of experience coming back, albeit with the injury in the St. John's game, how has that unit developed and gotten better as the season gone on, and they had a pretty high ceiling to begin with? Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that unit. I think it's just kind of getting some continuity within the unit. Early in the year, we battled some injuries. Obviously that St. John's game, we were still fairly healthy and kind of with the guys we expected to have, and so that game was an eye opener. I think just in terms of the way that we were preparing ourselves. I've been saying that all year, just in terms of the way we're preparing ourselves during the week. How hard are we pushing ourselves? How hard are we making sure that we're executing in practice the way we want it to look in the game? And I think early in the year, again, there might have been a little bit of that. You kind of get in that habit of, okay, yeah, it's been working for a few years. We just kind of keep doing the same thing. I think that was great for us to have that opportunity to have a little bit of an eye opener there. And hey, we got some things we need to get better at, and if we're going to be the team we want to be. And the guys bought into that. And since then, that combination of just preparing themselves in that manner, day in and day out, of just competing at a high level in practice, along with some continuity in the front. I know that following week in Central, I think Tucker Kinney might have been the only guy who made it through the game healthy, and so we were kind of dealing with some things, bouncing guys around, different people stepping in there, and we finally got some continuity. And I think a guy like Ethan Stockwell, coming off last year's ACL, kind of early in the year was just working his way back in and wasn't able to maybe play quite as consistently. We had to get him in and out of there and shuffle the deck a little bit. Now he's feeling really good. He's playing his best football right now. Will Conlon is healthy and playing really well in the middle. Those three guys have so much playoff experience. And then, we've been kind of still shuffling in a few guys at guard at times, and which is kind of the way we've been doing it all year. But I think just enough continuity in that group that they're confident and working together, and they're just playing at a very high level, and they're preparing themselves week in and week out to do that. And you're seeing, I think what we talked about at the beginning of the year is finally coming to fruition at the right time, is that our offensive line is really becoming the strength of what we do on that side of the ball, and it gives your quarterback a lot of confidence, and our backs are running hard and have a lot of confidence. And when you're playing well up front, especially this time of the year, that's usually where playoff games are won and lost, is in the fronts. And we're in a good spot right now with the way those guys are competing.
Being in the playoffs, Aaron, not in this postseason, it's definitely a different atmosphere. When it goes into those practices during the week, are y'all more focused on just keep refining the skills that they've gotten through this entire season in the plays, or is it more in preparation for the opponent you're going against?
Yeah, it's kind of a mix of both. You still got to keep some. We have some individual work every week. That kind of has been shrinking down as the season goes along, and you can only do so much before you start to kind of. You need to not beat your guys up either, and but we're still trying to make sure we're staying sharp with our techniques. I talked about it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we had that extra bye. Just even refining like our tackling. You think about this time of year, tackling can it's going to win and lose you ball games. That's what football is about, is blocking and tackling. And it's sometimes it can be complicated late in the year to want to go hit each other, but there's a lot of things you can do to practice tackling without having to have a ton of contact. And so it's just about getting your body in position, run the football, that type of thing. For our O-line, blocking techniques, obviously you can't just beat on each other all day long, but we're still working on keeping those things sharp. But then there's still plenty of, obviously the time is, okay, hey, here's what our opponent's doing, here's how we got to be able to attack our opponent, and working on the schematic side of things too. So you still got to find that fine balance this time of year, because again, I just feel like the teams that are the most fundamentally sound right now, that don't fall off in those areas and don't start to have, maybe see that late season, okay, we've got to drop off in our technique or our fundamentals because it's becoming a long year. Those teams that stay sharp are the ones that you're seeing, not make mistakes on Saturday, and are the ones that are coming out in these close games on top. And obviously when you have a limited margin for error, which is what every playoff game is, you got to make sure everything's sharp in the way it needs to be.
How hard is it this time of year with the number of kids you got in your program to get the dress list for a playoff game? Because regular season, your sideline's pretty full, obviously.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It was a challenge for us to trim our roster down to 58 guys that can be dressed when the game started, and those are tough decisions. Obviously, there's more than 58 guys that deserve to be down there, that have had a huge role in what we're doing. That's why obviously at all of our home games, every guy's down there on the sideline with us, and so that was definitely a challenge for us to get that thing down to the 58 that did dress. And each week, you can't only have 58 guys ready at this point, because something's going to happen in the game. So this week it could look a little different. That dress list is probably going to look different than it did last week. You're always dealing with, okay, you might have lost a guy here, you had a little bit of an injury here. Hey, we got to have an alternate ready. This is going to be a game time type of decision or whatever it might be. So even though we're down to 58 dressed on a Saturday, we're still preparing. Every guy that's played in the varsity game at this point is still preparing like they might be dressed and playing on Saturday. And we've got to do that. We've got to have all hands on deck right now. And I think the other thing too that the guys have done a good job of is it can be hard to keep a full team, even though they're all part of what's going on right now. And it's everyone's success is winning a championship, playing the playoffs. Everyone's part of it, but sometimes the guys that aren't out there on Saturday, but they're the ones that are putting the work in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to give you a great look, to get your guys ready to go. It can be hard to be motivated to be that guy at times. And so, but I think our guys are doing a great job of buying into this process of understanding that, hey, actually, this extra time that we have right now for the young guys, even though they might not be the ones playing on Saturday, it's a chance for them to get better, to keep improving, to just think how many extra reps they're getting that other people aren't right now, that are going to come in handy in the future when they're the guys that are playing in these big time games. So just keeping the entire team motivated, keeping the entire team locked into what we're trying to do, and I think they care enough about each other that no matter who, like I said on Saturday, no matter who's making the play, they're excited for each other and excited to have another week together.
Just piggybacking on that, with the extra 4 weeks that you've had in the postseason the last couple of years, there are some examples of guys contributing now that maybe weren't on the dress list the last couple of years in the postseason, but those extra reps got them to where they are contributing now. Yeah,
no doubt. I think you can see it on both sides of the ball, really. But I think we already talked about Adam Link's season this year already. I mean, Adam didn't dress in a single varsity game last year, but he got a lot of extra practice reps last year and was playing maybe some other teams' defenses, but was working on defense and getting better. And here's a guy that's played half the season as our starting outside linebacker and is on our 58-man dress list and having a huge impact on our defense. Connor McDonald in our front's another guy that stands out, 55 out there. Same thing last year. It was not on our dress list, was not running around out there. I think on the offensive side, Dylan Swanstrom, is a guy this year that has come up. Justice Bachman, you think about some of the plays those guys have made. They were not on these dress lists last year, but they were getting extra reps last season, getting opportunities to keep refining themselves, getting better. So, you're just seeing, I guess Cam Stalzer, he had that first sack of the game. Another day, I'm probably forgetting some. It's hard to, just off the top of my head, but you go down the line, there's a lot of guys impacting that game on Saturday that weren't playing in these games last year, but they were getting these extra weeks of practice, getting these extra reps. And maybe that even goes back to what Mark asked earlier. What's gotten you to the point where you get into these games in the postseason, and it seems like now there's a confidence that you can continue to win these games. I think it is. Even that experience, the guys that maybe didn't play in those games last year, but saw that success, saw what that looked like, saw how those guys prepared themselves, got those extra repetitions. I just think we've got a much more veteran developed team through playing all these playoff games, and I think that just continues to build on itself.
You see any edges maybe between that you might have over Bethel going into Saturday?
It's going to be a complicated one, right? It's a back and forth deal. I think both teams. I really think if you looked at it, both teams hang their hat on playing really good defense, and then their offenses do capitalize on some field position, on turnovers, on some momentum plays that way. And I really think that's going to be something that's going to show up big in this game is whose defense can kind of create a couple of those opportunities. Certainly, like I said earlier, they're a very pressure-based, kind of get after you, get up on you. They're going to be physical on your wide receivers. They're going to, bring some extra pressure against your run game, against your pass game. They're going to try to get you uncomfortable. And how well we handle that, take care of the football is going to be really important. And obviously, as we mentioned earlier, one of our things here this season has been an opportunistic defense creating turnovers. So I think that, just like always, is critical. And I think I was reading it, I think it was on the Football Scoop here recently, but they did a study on, just what's been the most successful, what's been like the best way to have success in a football game this year. Like what are the factors that are playing the biggest role? And it's kind of come down, it sounds like, over 90% of the time, if you rush the ball for more yards than the other team and you win the turnover battle, you win the football game. And I think, that's probably what you're going to see again this weekend. Which team can control the ball, run it, and get some things going on the ground, and which team can take care of the football the best has got a great chance to win. And I think that'll be the edge. I'm not saying that we have an edge in that area. I think it's going to be a pretty evenly matched ball game. But hopefully, the experience that we've had playing in these games, and I think anytime, like I said, we're playing out here in Walton River Stadium, that might be the one edge that we do have that I'm excited about, just being in front of the home crowd again.
Talking about the field, this team has only lost 3 times in the past 10 years at home. On Saturday, what was that atmosphere like for you, just with a packed stadium?
Yeah, every time we get a chance to go out there, it's special when you play at home, especially this year only having 4 games at home on the schedule. We were hopeful at the beginning of the season when we scheduled this thing that we might get some at the end of the year too, and fortunately we are right now. But yeah, and honestly, the thing about Saturday that was really special, I think, was just that it was Thanksgiving weekend. A lot of times you go out, we've been on the road for those games before, we've been at home for those games before, and it's kind of, it might be one of the lowest turnouts that you're going to see at a playoff game just because students aren't on campus and, families got things going on and all that. But to have that crowd there on Thanksgiving weekend, to have a student section the way we had it down there in that south end zone, it was awesome. I know the guys fed off that, they feel that. And as I said, I think on Saturday, I'm just excited now to see what the crowd's going to look like this weekend with everyone back on campus. I know it's going to be even bigger, and that's going to play, like I said, a big role for our guys as they certainly feed off of that energy and that environment for sure.
Good luck Saturday.
All right, thank you very much.